Is CNN trying to win the award for worst network ever in the entirety of human history? This in from the Daily Caller. It says CNN just cracked open Pandora's box that's worse than any fake news hoax. It says on Tuesday, the network announced an official partnership with the online platform Kalshi, which allows users to wager on anything from a sports game to whether JD Vance will be the GOP nominee in 2028 to how much money Darth Vader's lightsaber will fetch at an auction. Kalshi is a prediction market and users are trading contracts on future events. So somehow it is legally distinct from gambling. And it says that as part of the partnership, CNN will get access to Kalshi's data through an API or backend interface that automatically updates in real time, Axios reported. That data will be featured on CNN's air through a real-time data ticker and can be referenced across CNN's platforms when journalists discuss new predictions. Of course, neither CNN nor Kalshi has addressed the ethics elephant in the newsroom as of publication. CNN anchors, reporters, and commentators do not determine events throughout the country and the world, but they certainly influence them enough to move markets. For example, if CNN published a story that Nvidia CEO Jensen Huang had a terminal illness, but that story later turned out to be false, Nvidia's stock would have likely plummeted regardless, and billions of dollars could have been wiped out in a matter of minutes. So how will this power affect their coverage now that they are partnered with a betting platform? CNN would likely get a cut of the Kalshi gambling revenue. So how will that affect which events they choose to cover? Will the popularity of bets on Kalshi's platform drive their coverage? Are they going to do segments on Darth Vader's lightsaber because it drives the most wagering? Will all these CNN employees, from the executives to the bookers, be barred from betting on people or events they cover in the news? Where are the guardrails? What if anonymous sources, whether in government or working for a sports franchise, leak them stories to drive betting markets in a certain direction? It goes on, it's quite an ethical quagmire, to say nothing of the pure degeneracy of it all. There is so much room for insider trading and manipulation that it boggles the mind. Here's a good example. As former Daily Caller News Foundation reporter Andrew Kerr pointed out, Kalshi has a market on whether CNN host Fareed Zakaria will say the word democracy at some point during his show Sunday. How many CNN employees are quietly wagering some money on this? If I were a betting man, I would say somebody is. And you can see this post from Andrew Kerr. It says, "This is insane. CNN is partnering with a gambling app that is currently accepting bets on whether or not CNN host Fareed Zakaria will say the word democracy during his show this coming Sunday." And you can see the betting statistics there. This is crazy. The grim trend is already catching on in TV news. A couple of days after the CNN news broke, CNBC announced its own exclusive partnership with Kalshi. Quote, starting in 2026, CNBC will incorporate exclusive Kalshi predictions market data into its programs, including Squawk Box and Fast Money, offering viewers a unique perspective on how event forecasts and probabilities are shifting in real time. A Kalshi ticker will run alongside segments of CNBC's on-air programming. Kalshi will also launch a CNBC page on its site featuring CNBC selected markets, the network said in a press release. Worse yet, Kalshi's co-founder Tarek Mansour recently told a panel at Future of Global Markets 2025 conference that the ultimate goal of his company is to, quote, financialize everything and, quote, create a tradable asset out of any difference in opinion. Yes, because if there's anything America needs more of, it's complex financial instruments that extract wealth from people without actually producing anything tangible in the real world. Our public infrastructure will crumble, but at least we can bet on where Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce will honeymoon. Corporate media is already corrupt enough as it is, but adding Kalshi into the mix is a death sentence. CNN, CNBC, and all the other networks that may follow suit are throwing away their last shreds of credibility and integrity. Not that they had much of any before. And that is from John Loftus. If you haven't seen the clip that's garnered over 11 million views thus far on this statement, the co-founder of Kalshi says, the long-term vision is to financialize everything and create a tradable asset out of any difference in opinion. Take a listen to this.
Mark, you've mentioned multiple times that you think prediction markets will be bigger than the stock market. What is it going to take to become a $1 trillion asset class?
It's pretty much already like a close to 100 billion a year asset class, right? Like, it's pretty easy to imagine a 10x from here. Like, we haven't even started. It's been a year. I think a very large number of people care, much larger than traditional markets. And I think retail as a pie has just been growing in the US, and I think it's going to keep growing. It's growing in the stock market, but it's growing outside of the stock market. The long-term vision is to financialize everything and create a tradable asset out of any difference in opinion. And I think if you do build a general purpose exchange that can resolve differences of opinions on anything, like, the TAM is quite massive, quite a bit bigger than the current TAM of the stock market. I think putting aside sort of the retail trading and the institutional trading product, like, there's sort of this separate product, which is like, we are living in a world where, like, we have an abundance of information, but there's a lot of noise, and, like, we don't really understand what's real from what's not. And prediction markets are an antidote to that. They do a very, very good job at distilling information and surfacing truth to people. And you're seeing this sort of massive shift where, like, people are using them whenever they think about questions about the future, you know, whenever they're debating about anything. And I think that trajectory is going to keep going. That's a new consumer habit that I don't think is going to be undone.
Provided the markets aren't rigged. And to be clear, we're not accusing anyone of that. But we already know that algorithmic manipulation happens on social media, steering societies towards outcomes they desire. Palantir admits to this. Alex Karp said their software stopped the rise of the far right in Europe. Now, this is obviously something quite different, but what does the MSM paired with encouraging people to engage with predictive markets or gambling actually achieve in the end? And are they really as ethical as some claim? This is from just over a week ago from frontofficesports.com. Kalshi hit with nationwide class action over illegal sports betting. It says Kalshi faces another legal challenge, this time in the form of a massive class action lawsuit that claims it has deceived thousands of consumers into using its, quote, illegal sports betting platform. Kalshi is accused of operating an unlicensed sports gambling platform that misleads customers into thinking they're getting fairer odds than traditional sports books when that isn't the case, according to a proposed class action lawsuit filed on Wednesday. The suit, filed in New York federal court on behalf of thousands of potential class members, features 7 named plaintiffs who claim they were deceived into losing money. It seeks to recover the money they have bet on the platform and demands a jury trial with the potential for damages to be tripled. Quote, by operating unlicensed sports betting, Kalshi has violated gambling laws, engaged in illegal deceptive activity, and unjustly enriched itself at the expense of tens of thousands of consumers, the complaint says. Now, obviously, this still needs to go through a court of law, but the decision of CNN, CNBC, and anyone else that jumps on this gravy train or potential gravy train at a time like this, when there are still a lot of questions about how all of this predictive market stuff works, is really, really not a good look.